With a magnificent performance of SEA's Nobody Gets Me, Alanna Lynise walked onto the stage during the electrifying atmosphere of The Voice Season 27 playoffs. She was a shining example of unfiltered emotion and creative talent, and she impressed everyone with her performance. Her performance was not only a cover, rather, it was a soul-bearing reimagining, a love letter to vulnerability, artistry, and the power of music to link all of us. With each note, Alanna transformed the studio into a hallowed environment, weaving SEA's introspective ballad into a tapestry of her personal experiences. As a result, the audience, coaches, and watchers at home were completely fascinated by the performance. The performance that Alanna gave was a masterclass in how to take a song and turn it into a cosmos. Let's dive into the magic that she created. Artists on The Voice are put through a crucible during the playoffs, where they are required to demonstrate that they are more than simply vocalists. They are also storytellers, visionaries, and creators. The sultry tone and gutsy stage presence that Alanna, a singer-songwriter from Atlanta, who is 24 years old, possessed during the blind auditions had already caused her to attract all the attention. She had developed her talent to combine elements of soul, R&B, and jazz into something that was completely her own with the guidance of Coach John Legend. Choosing Nobody Gets Me, a song from SEA's album SOS, which was released in 2022, was a courageous decision. A performer who is capable of digging deep was required because of the song's unfiltered honesty, which explored the sensation of being unnoticed and misunderstood. Not only did Alanna succeed in meeting that task, but she also redefined it. When the lights on stage were turned down, Alanna was standing by herself, and a single spotlight threw a gentle glow on her. A backdrop of cascading cloth and shades of midnight blue was used as the set, which was minimalistic in nature and evoked the melancholy intimacy of the song. Her presence was accentuated by the simplicity of the gown she wore, which was a flowing, deep purple color. A piano, an acoustic guitar, and some gentle strings were the only instruments in the arrangement, which allowed her voice to have room to breathe. Since the very first line, which read, "Took a long vacation. No makeup, just Jay-Z," Alanna's delivery has been nothing short of miraculous. The tiny roughness in her voice added a layer of grit to SEA's beautiful melancholy, and her voice, which was deep and textured, had the weight of someone who had lived the song's longing. Her imaginative reworking was the element that elevated Alanna's performance to a transcendent level. The original version of SEA's song is a personal lament that is almost conversational in nature. The beauty of the song lies in its subtle vulnerability. An entire cathedral was constructed by Alanna using that foundation. She made the song into a trip through heartbreak and self-discovery by slowing the speed just enough to allow each lyric to linger, which turned the song into a journey. Every pause in her speech was replete with feeling, and her language was careful. When she sang, "Nobody Gets Me, You Do," her voice could be heard cracking ever so slightly. This was not a sign of weakness, but rather of the bravery she displayed in exposing herself. Everyone in the crowd was aware of it. It was the kind of silence that hums with mutual comprehension. The voice choices that Alanna made were a brilliant example of creative thinking. She did not imitate SEA's airy falsetto. Rather, she leaned into her own lower register, which gave the song a genuine warmth that grounded it. While she was on the bridge, she climbed into a soaring run, her voice moving between notes with the accuracy of a jazz improvisation. "I'm so confused. I don't want to feel this way," she said. Each flourish was a stroke of the brush on her emotional canvas. It was not a spectacular display. Rather, it was deliberate. The performance was described by John Legend as a performance that felt like a conversation with her soul. Legend, who was observing the performance from his coach's chair, nodded in admiration. A significant portion of the concert was devoted to narrating stories, in addition to singing. A personal link existed between Alanna and the song, and she included her own story into the composition. Prior to the playoffs, she had spoken with John about how the song connected with her experiences as a young black woman navigating the music industry. She frequently had the impression that her voice, both literally and figuratively, was not being heard to its fullest extent. She incorporated that into each and every gesture she made on stage. She looked to be pleading for connection with the audience by stretching out with her hands throughout the chorus. Her eyes, which were fixed on the audience, conveyed a story of desire. Not only was she singing about a lover when she sang, "Nobody Gets Me Like You," But she was also singing about her dreams and her struggle to be considered. From a visual standpoint, Alanna's performance was a study in the power of understatement. In accordance with the progression of the song's feelings, the lighting changed. Gentle blues were used for the verses, warm ambers were used for the chorus, and a glaring white spotlight was used for the climax. There was a faint projection of handwritten lines that flickered across the backdrop during the final verse. These lyrics were Alanna's own poetry that was inspired by the song. This was an homage to her traditional songwriting heritage. It was a creative risk that paid off, giving depth without taking away from her voice, without being distracting. Both Gwen Stefani and Reba McEntire were captured on camera, wiping away tears, and Reba McEntire was heard murmuring, "That's the one." The ability of Alanna to strike a balance between vulnerability and strength was her undeniable advantage. The song by SCA is a way of walking a tightrope between hopelessness and resistance, and Alanna accomplished this feat. She lowered her voice and practically whispered, "How do you live so nice with your vices?" in the second stanza, which was a statement that had the feel of a private confession. However, by the time she reached the outro, her voice had reached a forceful crescendo, showing that she was not angry but rather determined, as if she was asserting her own value. It served as a timely reminder that creativity is not only about beauty, rather, it is about overcoming adversity and transforming suffering into something that is shared by everybody. It was a very exciting response from the audience. The crowd exploded in applause as soon as Alanna reached her final note, which was a haunting and persistent "you" that appeared to hang in the air. Fans on X referred to the performance as a spiritual experience, and the moment Alanna became a star. Social media was flooded with clips of the performance. Each and every one of the coaches expressed their admiration. With a smirk on his face, Snoop Dogg replied, "You took us to church, and then you took us to the stars, baby." A masterclass in emotion was what Gwen described it as. With a clear expression of emotion on his face, John jumped up to clap and said, "You didn't just sing, you created a world." The artistic vision that Alanna had was on full display during her performance, which went beyond her singing. During the process of crafting the arrangement, she had collaborated closely with the music director of The Voice. She had insisted on a live string section in order to capture the intimacy of the song. Furthermore, she had worked along with the lighting team to guarantee that the images were in sync with her emotional progression. Rather than merely a singer performing, this was an artist assuming full responsibility for every aspect of the performance, so transforming a cover into a message. SZA's original was respected by her performance, but she also staked her own claim as a formidable force in the music industry. Given the circumstances of season 27, Alanna's performance was a defining moment in the story. She had just thrown down the gauntlet, and the playoffs are the most important part of the season. Her performance of "Nobody Gets Me" was not about winning a competition. Rather, it was about asserting her position in the world, not only because of the talent, but also because of times like this, when an artist reaches through the screen and makes you feel like you are being seen. Many who watched The Voice were reminded of the reasons why they loved the show.